Hi, welcome back to our series on how to minimize your application AI usage costs. In this example, this tip, we're going to look at how to use prompt caching and how it only works if your prompts stop changing. I'm Troy Magennis coming to you from the Pacific Northwest. Let's take a look. So prompt caching is often built into the models, and what it does is if the input system instructions or the messages or tool definitions are stable and consistent, if they're identical to a previous call, it doesn't go and re-tokenize, do the first step of understanding your input. It uses what it previously calculated. And it's mostly free, but it requires you to make sure that your stable content in your body that you're sending the LLM SDK is stable at the top and getting variable at the bottom. So as new messages come along, that's going to be new. It's not going to be in the list. So order matters. Now, the likely saving you're going to get by sort of really using prompt input caching is about a 60% decrease in your input token costs. Now, there are some rules. Now, first of all, it requires you to, again, it's very order dependent. So you want to make sure your system instructions are A, stable and reusable, and they're put first. They're put first in the body in a very consistent order how you send them in. You want to keep your tool definitions stable. Don't reorder them, and don't let teams sort of reorder the order that the MCP servers are defined or the tools are defined. Now, if you're going to respond in a JSON schema, in your prompt, put the JSON schema either in the system instruction or at the very top of your prompt, not at the bottom. Because if you're then going to sort of give it some variable context data, what's going to happen is that's going to be seen as a brand new section, a brand new block. So schemas before data. Now, another classic way of breaking this prompt caching is to put timestamps in your system instruction. The current time is or the current date is. And then what you're hoping is that the user, when they sort of say, tell me my emails in the last 5 days, that it knows where now is so it can work that out. But you don't have to. The system instructions from the models have nailed this a long time ago. You putting it in is A, redundant, and B, going to stop prompt caching working because you're never going to issue a call at exactly the same time. So again, we went through tools and reordering, and we went through separating what part of the prompt is going to always be consistent with the part that changes. So let's look at what we can do to really maximize our prompt caching. First of all, turn it on. Now, OpenAI, it's automatically turned on. As long as you keep a consistent order, it will likely work. I think that's only in the Conversations API, the SDK, not the chat completions, although I'm not sure. And what I say is going to be out of date. So you need to research prompt caching for your particular vendor. Now, Anthropic have a bit more of a complex scheme where you've got to add specific tags in your prompt and in your sections. So you really want to put that into your system instructions and definitions and your templates so that the developers don't forget to add them on a prompt by prompt basis. And I'll show you that in a second. Now you want to standardize your boilerplate. You want to actually have a folder where you standardize what your system instructions are going to be or your tool definitions are going to be to make sure that any individual developer in your company or organization doesn't write their own and doesn't sort of tweak their own. So you want to standardize the boilerplates, the tone, the brand, the security, the legal. All those instructions should be stored in one place and injected into a prompt. And you want to make sure that the order is always the same. So build a system which builds the body structure up and always puts things in the same order. If it composes the system instructions from multiple sources, it should always be in the same order. Let's take a look how I do that. Now again, completely optional, but PromptOpsKit is an open source tool I built to try and enforce these good practices for reducing costs. Now, again, when you install the library PromptOpsKit and initialize it, it creates a prompts folder. And one of the things that it creates when it creates the prompts folder is a shared folder. And you'll see here that it has tone. And the second thing, so another thing that it creates is a default. Now, what the intention of this default and the shared sort of files is that you define them in one spot in the tone.md and the defaults MD, and everything gets built the same way every time. So in PromptOpsKit, we take these markdown files, we can compile them, and at runtime we render the body based on these prompt templates. But it's always done exactly the same way. And by supporting includes, what happens is my default system instructions will always have ToneMD implemented. So when I actually go down and I use these prompts, I don't actually have to put it in because it's inherited from above, and it's always going to be the same. And it's that consistency in order and content, and having a way to give your developers a spot to grab these that's going to be vitally important to getting prompt caching working the best that you can. So again, I'm Troy Magennis. This is part 4 of our Saving Money series. Thanks for that, and I'll see you next time.